Hey everyone, I'm Rajesh Telang, VARC faculty at 2IM, and as you can see the title of the video, VARC Last Lap. I'm in this video going to share my personal experience, my strategy for the last 20 days, what worked for me and what totally didn't. So buckle up for this ride and let's just dive in. So first I'm going to start with what exactly did I do in the last 20 days. The first thing that I did was to come up with a strategy. It is very important. So now I already had a blueprint of a strategy with me. There was a blueprint strategy and it was very straightforward because I have a very good reading speed and I can cover multiple passages within the stipulated time of 40 minutes. That's why I went for attempting 4 RCs first and then tackling the remaining 8 VA questions. This is what I did for VARC. Last 20 days, before the last 20 days, this was my strategy. Now I created contingency plan. Contingency plan were for the scenario where this strategy might falter. And if the strategy falters, what to do, right? So you need to be flexible because going with just one strategy is absolutely going to lead to your downfall. Might lead to, not absolutely, but might lead to. So I prepared a contingency plan that is 2-3 more strategies. I tweaked my strategy a little bit. It was not a drastic change in my strategy, but I tweaked it a little bit. I tweaked my strategy a little bit to come up with escape plans. What is going to happen if X scenario comes? What is going to happen if Y scenario comes? What is going to happen if Z scenario comes, right? For example, in terms of football, if you're FC Barcelona, you're going to play different against Real Madrid, you're going to play differently against some English Premier League club, or you're going to play differently against Getafe, right? So I prepared a contingency plan, what worked for me and what works for me and what didn't work for me. Those things that didn't work for me, I made some minor tweaks into them, okay? So basically this was my overall plan. 4 RCs, 8 VA questions within the stipulated time of 40 minutes. Now what I exactly did was, I gave 22 to 25 minutes, actually 25 to 28 minutes for this. Let me rub it down. 25 to 28 minutes and 12 to 15 minutes for VA. I was able to cover these multiple topics, multiple passages, solve all the 4 questions per passage in the stipulated 25 to 28 minutes of time because I'm comfortable with multitudes of topics and genres. But the contingency plan, for example, was for the scenario, let's move to the next slide, was for the scenario if I ended up with abstract passages. Now these abstract passages such as, let's call them philosophical articles or something related to psychology, I'm not really good with them. I mean, I can read these passages, I can solve the questions, but they are going to consume a lot more time. If on an average I'm taking 6 minutes per passage, if it is related to a topic that I'm good at, for example, something related to politics, political science, or something related to history or something related to finance, okay? If I'm good with that, it is going to take me 6 minutes per passage. But in the case of abstract passages, they used to take somewhere around 8 to 9 minutes. And that used to mess up with my whole plan. As you can see, 9 minutes per passage, that is obviously going to take 36 minutes. I am left with 4 minutes for 8 VA questions. That is not going to work right for me. So what I exactly did was, I tweaked the plan a little. I went with 3 RCs first, then 8 VAs, and then I went for the final RC in the remaining minutes. Okay, these 3 RCs, I tried to cover them in 20 minutes. These 3 RCs will be the topic, will be from the genre, will be from the topic that I'm good at. On the other hand, 8 VA questions. Now I'll talk separately about how I tackled VA, but I attempted all the 8 VA questions. I gave them a try, not attempted. I gave them a try. If they were easy to solve, I used to attempt them. If they were difficult, I left those. Okay, I did not take risk with VA questions. And the final RC, I used to be left with somewhere around 7 to 8 minutes going by this strategy because I was not wasting my time trying to understand the difficult, the complex RC in the beginning itself. So what I did, I went for the final RC in the final 7 to 8 minutes. Out of 4 questions, I was able to attempt at least 3. 2 questions minimum, at max 3 or 4. Okay, so that worked out pretty well for me. I was able to score a really high, really good score in the CAT examination. So this strategy worked out for me. Now this is an example of the contingency plan. I prepared this plan and I tried them along mock test and sectional tests. I attempted multiple mock tests and sectional tests to check whether this plan worked or not, and finally it worked. The good thing is that the section that I attempted, the slot that I was in, there were 2 passages based on the abstract topics. One was on liberalism and another one was on some other topic. I was not, had I not prepared for this backup plan, this contingency plan, I would have struggled. But since I went prepared, worked out pretty fine for me. Okay, moving ahead, what I exactly did for VA. So VA, now the paper analysis is very important. Just attempting mock test and attempting another mock test after that, another after that, you won't learn anything unless you are able to identify what mistakes you are making. Okay, this analysis helped me identify that out of the 4 topics, those were para-jumbles, odd one out, para-completion and para-summary. I was weak at para-summary, and para-jumbles used to be always a 50-50 scenario. Either I'll get it right or I won't. I was really good. I still am good with odd one out and para-completion. So when I was attempting these 8 VA questions, I spent the majority of my time on these topics. I prepared para-summary extensively in the last 20 days as well. I did not give up on it, because you might end up with 3 questions, you might end up with 4 questions as well. You never know. Paper is very unpredictable. So I did not leave any topic per se, but I played to my strength. I spent the most of my time on the topics that I'm already good at. Did not spend a lot of time on para-jumbles because they can be dicey in a little bit, certain situations, and they can be very easy to solve in certain situations. So it depends on the question itself. But para-summary, I prepared extensively, yet I did not take risk, because last 20 days are not enough to master over one particular topic. So unless I was sure about the question, unless I was sure with the option, I didn't take any risk, okay, with para-summary. But I attempted all the odd one out questions and I attempted all the para-completion questions, and I'm talking about the mock test scenario. I used to go by this strategy: attempt all these 3 questions, leave no theta, attempt all the theta questions, that is para-jumbles and para-completion, attempt them all, not para-completion, sorry, odd one out, attempt them all. I did not miss even a single question from theta. I used to make sure that even if I don't get enough time to go through para-jumbles in the end, I will type in the answer. And this worked out pretty well for me. So, going ahead, what worked and what didn't? So basically, you need to take care of 3 things. Being prepared with a contingency plan, it worked for me. A contingency plan is basically a backup strategy. I have used this term again and again. I just want to make it clear. It's a backup strategy. What you need to do is that if, for example, the last year paper, right, there were 4 RCs, and in between those RC questions, there were RC passages, there were multiple of para-summary or VA questions, sprinkled in between the RC passages. Now, a lot of the times you don't prepare for such scenario. This was the first time that this happened last year. What do you do in that situation so that this situation never occurs again? A lot of people fumbled up during that. When they saw the paper, they couldn't decide whether they should go for RC or they should go for VA. They couldn't decide that. So what did they do? They ended up wasting a lot of time. So right now, your job should be to prepare contingency plan. If that comes up, you should be ready with it. Okay, if there are VA questions sprinkled in between, this is what you need to do. If they all come together in the end, this is what you need to do. If the paper starts with VA itself and continues with VA, this is what you need to do. Multiple scenario, and you need to be flexible. Flexibility is better than Perfection. Don't go for perfection. Don't try to make up one strategy trying to use it everywhere. Flexible, be flexible. If this situation comes up, I'm going to do this. If that situation comes up, I'm going to do that. X situation, Y is to be done. Y situation, Z is to be done. Okay. And the last thing is, be a little pragmatic. Now, this is something that I'm going to share with respect to the previous year question paper. There was a scenario. I attempted the first passage. This one I attempted at the first go. And then I attempted, let's go to the second passage. Yes, the liberalism passage, I attempted that as well. And then I went for the third passage, the positivist. These three passages, I went for them. I was not left with a lot of time because I made the mistake of going with two abstract passages instead of going with any other topic. Okay, the last remaining passage unfortunately turned out to be from a passage that I already had knowledge about. Let me go to the last passage. This passage about the Netflix, it turned out to be a passage that I already had knowledge about. The last 7-8 minutes, I did not, last 5 minutes, I did not waste a lot of time trying to understand each and every single word. I read the passage, I understood the main idea, what the author is trying to say. Basically, the whole point of the passage was that Netflix is able to overcome that cultural and language barrier, right? This is what I was able to understand. I directly jumped to the questions. I was able to eliminate the options based on their consistency with the passages. And I was thus able to answer all of these questions within the stipulated time. Had I not been practical, had I not been pragmatic, this wouldn't have been possible. So you have to be a little pragmatic. Don't have to follow each and every single step that, okay, first I need to read the whole passage, then I need to attempt the question. Now, I'm not asking every one of you to do this. I'm asking those of you who are comfortable with VARC, those who are scoring 40 plus marks constantly or 35 plus marks constantly in the passage. This is an approach, this is a risk that if you are willing to take might turn out to be fruitful. Okay. What didn't work? Now let's talk about what did not work for me. As I already told you, the time limit, the 40 minutes time limit, it was a little tricky to manage the paper because of the two abstract passages. I ended up wasting a little bit of time. Also, I did not prepare for a chaotic scenario. A chaotic scenario such as the mouse not working or some student creating ruckus. This happened in my center itself in Bangalore. A student who came late created a whole scene, unfortunately, because she was not allowed to attempt the examination because she was 15 minutes late. Turned out to be a mess. I was distracted. I cannot vouch for other people, but it turned out to be very distractive for me. It ended up taking 2 to 3 minutes away from me because I was not able to focus on the passage properly, right? So my recommendation would be that there might be a situation where the situation might turn into chaos, okay? Chaotic scenario. You have to be prepared for that. And also, second thing, apart from preparing for chaotic scenario, is time management. Be very thorough with the questions that you are looking at, and also please keep an eye on the clock all the time. If you let go the sight of the clock even for a minute, all of a sudden within the blink of an eye, 15 minutes will pass. Okay, so you need to manage your time properly. Be ready for the chaotic scenario. So what do you need to do? Basically, the takeaway would be to fine tune your strategy. Be a little pragmatic. Fine tune your strategy. Be a little pragmatic. Create contingency plan and everything. And the second thing is, this is something that I'm going to recommend to every one of you. Attempt at least 2 to 3 mocks in chaotic scenario. Very less probability of this happening, honestly telling you. Mouse not working, some student creating ruckus or internet issue. Very, very less probability. CAT is very standardized test in that sense that these issues don't usually occur, but prepare for the worst. Okay. So these are the takeaways. This is what worked for me, and these are the things that didn't work for me, and this is what worked for me. And with that, I'm signing off. All the best for your CAT prep, and Hopefully you all are able to score good in CAT. See you all soon. Thank you very much.